So here's the thought. So in fact, I just texted out to a handful of people as I was sitting back there. But Einstein said years ago, obviously he's not still around, but he said, I'm going to summarize, but he says you have a choice every single day to decide whether this universe is either friendly or hostile. And that's a kind of a simple statement, but you have to make a decision, or you should make a decision, as to whether it's a hostile universe you live in or whether it's a friendly universe you live in. And you say, well, why does that matter? Because this matters. In so many simple words, how you see the world. Now you can put other words, because some of us are maybe a little more analytical. You might say how you see the world versus how you think about the world, what you believe about the world. But I think it's really important that when you look at this business of real estate and you just look at your life, how you see the world is a critical component to your day in and day out success and the experience that you have. Now, last week I talked a little bit about, just because I always love, Monday's my favorite day to talk about just the mindset, the mental toughness, the way you see the world, the way you feel. And last week I wrote down basically what emotions do you want to feel. And the problem with our lives today is that we have so many things that are inundating us with information, whether it's the media, whether it's ads, social media. All of these things are trying to get us to focus on certain things, or feel certain ways, or do certain things, or believe certain things. And so yesterday I had a conversation for a couple of hours in my front living room with an individual. This individual actually stole a bunch of money from me and a few other people in my family. And they're not a family member. But my father has dementia, and my father has these rare coins, and randomly we had pulled them out of a safety deposit box, and we're this week planning on turning some of them in for his care. My father has dementia. Well, this person stole these coins, and it equated about, I'm going to say, $25,000 worth of coins. And he took one of the coins and turned it into a pawn shop up in Layton. And I thought to myself, people thought I was going to lose my mind, Aubrey. Like, they really thought I was going to be like just flipping my mind, and I in fairness really didn't. And people kept thinking that I was going to be really upset, but strangely I really wasn't. And I just wanted to, and as I was reflecting yesterday and this morning on just that experience, I was thinking, wow, I wonder how he sees the world, the person who took the coins. And the thing that I've observed is that this person really believes that they live in a very hostile world. And so while I sat there in this conversation, you may say, well, how did you get into a conversation in your front living room? Well, on his way to his escape, if you would say, and he had already gotten all the way down to New Mexico, he randomly sent me a text and just said, hey, could we chat? Well, sure, no problem. And so that's actually, I think, last week, where I think I was off by 15 minutes because I met with you right before it. And so as I sat there and talked to him for a few minutes, as we're speaking, he sends me a picture, Greg, of all the coins and says, hey, I need you to hold me accountable to making sure that I get these back to you. I said, okay, great. So he sends me a picture of the coins. And then yesterday, as we sat and visited for a couple hours, after 2 hours, he handed me a bag and he handed all the coins back to me. And it was kind of a fascinating experience. And as we visited, there was a couple of things that seemed to be consistent. But I don't think necessarily, I think this person thinks that in their world that and I've said this a lot, maybe some of you may remember it, but I've said, what you feel, whether you feel you're entitled to something, or the world is hostile, or the universe is against you, God's against you, things are rough, whatever it is, I think uniquely what you feel isn't that unique. You may say, no, George, it is unique to me. It's not unique to you. Because everybody gets depressed. Everybody gets down. Everybody gets frustrated. Everybody gets lost. Every single person has moments of doubt. Sometimes they hide it, they cloak it in different ways. But there's many people, we all have fears. We all experience fears. There's nothing unique about what you're feeling. The only thing that's unique is how you got there. That's it. Because everybody feels those things at moments in their lives. Discouragement, fear, disappointment, they're scared. You may say, but you don't understand. I don't need to understand necessarily how you got there. But what I understand is that everybody feels it. And so the uniqueness isn't in how you got there, not that you got there. So if you're there, whether it's in a state of hostility, like Einstein says, do you believe you live in a hostile world or a friendly world? In so many words, how I take that is, how do you see the world? And if you see the world as hostile, then you're always going to be fighting against it. And I'm convinced that although as intelligent and bright as Einstein was, he must have had a very big spiritual component to his life. And that he understood that this universe gives and attracts to you simply whatever it is that you believe it's going to do. There's no question that he understood energy and relativity, and he certainly was one of the most brightest and most creative human beings that's ever lived on earth. And yet he still realized that how you see the world is a reflection of what you experience in the world. And so the thing that I realized last night was just a couple of things. And some of these I've talked about before, so I'm not here to suggest to you that what I may put up here today would be anything new to you. And even if you haven't ever heard me speak before, as you're new, what was your name again?
Joe.
Joe, and Joe, I don't think you've heard me speak, have you before?
Just at the summit.
Oh, you heard me yelling there? All right, just there. Only yelling there once.
Move a little bit.
All right. Okay, I'm trying to be calm today, Joe. The new and improved George this week, all right? I'm just kidding. But I just want you to think about a few things. When I sat down yesterday and talked to this individual, they said, I just don't understand why I do what I do. And I said, well, that's easy. Why you do what you do. Because you have standards to your life. And we started talking about the fact of addictions and other challenges. And again, I will tell you that what is unique is how he got where he got. But what is not unique, what he feels. And once you begin to realize that, by the way, and I didn't say the rest of this part, getting out of it is also not that unique. If all of us at one point or another have fear or depression or sadness or discouragement or overwhelm or struggle, that's not unique. What's also strangely not unique is that there are tools and strategies to get out of there. And so people resist it. They push against it. They don't want it. They want to stay where they are. They want to stay. You say, George, why would anyone want to stay negative? Because every single emotion and every single state that you remain in has some level of a payoff. It has a payoff. It has a payoff to be negative. It has a payoff to be angry. It has a payoff to be a victim. It has a payoff to blame others. It has a payoff to rationalize. Every single thing has a payoff. And people don't like to hear that. They don't want to know that there's a level of responsibility on a daily basis. And that doesn't mean that you have to change. You don't have to change. Only if you want to. And only if you have a desire to. So I just want to share with you just a few things, and we'll start there. So, how you see the world. Well, let's just first talk about desire. You know, desire is an interesting thing, but I've, over the years, have just simply believed it's two things. One, desire is a combination of thought and emotion for a particular desire or particular item. Maybe it's something you want to do, have, buy, be, whatever it is. But it is the combinations of your thought and your emotions. It's not just I want this, it's I desire it. And that means there's emotional connection to all of that. So when you move through this process of desire, just ask yourself, what do you desire? Love is a real interesting thing, right? The intimate type of love, romantic type of love. You'll hear things like, I desire them. Well, desire has a lot to do with, again, the emotion. So if you're not emotionally connected to what you want, it's unlikely that you're going to get it. So the key from being a great real estate agent or being a great leader or being able to have the ability to go to another level in your business is to figure out what is it that you desire. And people have said, well, what if I don't desire much? Right? Well, that's the old Jim Rohn statement. If you don't desire much, well, you don't have to become much. But the fact is that I think that you do desire something, but we push against it, or we talk ourselves out of it, or we recognize it's going to be really tough to get it. So therefore, we don't do things like prospect, or we don't do things like knock doors, or we don't do things like make the call, or do the lead follow-up, or practice the scripts, or learn a particular dialogue. And the reason that we don't is because we've lost our desire. Because the thing that's interesting is that you can, if I sat with you just like I did that individual yesterday, he talked about some of the best moments of his life. And I said, oh, well, then you had desire. Well, what really it is that you have this. You have reasons. And the challenge for this is that when you have, or what the beauty of this, not the challenge, the beauty of this is that when you have reasons will always overcome just pure willpower. Or just because of things I could write up there. I said I was going to do it, so I did it. Good for you. But that's not enough. It never will be. It'll fail you. It always does. We don't just do things because we say, and you may say, I'm a man of my word or a woman of my word. So I said it, so I did it. It's not your willpower. I'm going to bet that someone betrayed you in the past, so you keep your word. Someone did something you didn't like, so you did the opposite. Someone did something that you really thought was the right thing, you wanted to emulate it. You had reasons as to why you keep your word. And once you begin to realize that if you have a desire to do something and you can find reasons to do it, you're going to have tremendous success. So this individual, when he was away, he had been divorced, he had had some challenges, and there was this period of time where everything flowed. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I said, why do you think? Yeah, Joe, I said, why do you think it flowed? And Scott, you know what he said? Like all great teenagers, although he wasn't a teenager. You know what he said? Who knows what he said? Come on. I don't know. I said, you do, actually. Right? You do. But you don't want to acknowledge it. And I said, so tell me, during those moments of success, when you weren't doing the stupid things that you're doing, what is it that you were doing? Oh, I was doing this, and how come? Oh, well, I was able to do this for my kids, and I was able to do this for other people. And I just, right in the middle of his sentence, Bob, I said, oh, reasons. He wanted to argue for a second. He goes, well, I don't know if I'd call that a reason. Well, describe it more. Well, I was able to do this for my kid and buy him a truck. I was able to do this for my kid and fly him out to this thing. I was able to, oh, so those aren't reasons? And he paused. Aubrey looked at me and goes, I guess those are reasons. I said, so was it easy? Well, not in the very beginning. Did you allow yourself to forget the reasons why you were doing what you're doing? No. He goes, it was the best times of my life. Exactly, because you had reasons. So remember, the key is you have to have a desire. And the point is that you have to have reasons to succeed at the things you desire. But if I was even to go maybe a step further back, it would be decide what you want. And people always ask me, well, how do you, I get this consistent, how do you decide what you want? You just decide. You may say, well, what do you mean? Yes, can it be webbed with desire? Yes, but what do you want? And in regards to what you want, close enough. Well, it's because I'm too close to this, Greg. But what do you want has so much to do with just what I would tell you two things. It is this. It is a declaration And declarations are interesting. So when I talk about wants, you have to have a belief. And beliefs are things that you can declare. And so you can imagine in this conversation yesterday, which is who I am. It's how I've always been. I've had therapy for this. I've had this for that. I've had that for that. And he goes, and my dad would just tell me, you just need to choose, Aubrey. Choose, Luce. Choose. Choose to be happy. And I agree, there's a choice. But if you don't take a step before that, before it is that you choose to do something, the reality is that you don't even know why you're choosing. The challenge is the key to great decision making is the ability to know where you're going. Like, it makes no sense to be here. It might be wherever you are, and I don't even know what you're doing, but it'd be a lateral move if you don't know what you want. And I mean that to anybody. Nothing matters until you know what you want. You say, well, how do you decide what you want? Declare it. Declare what you desire, declare what you believe, and the question is, can you change it? The answer is yes. But declaration turns into then a development, which I know I've talked about a lot over the last few weeks. But if you can develop a belief, develop a desire, development and declaration are very different. I can declare I am this political party. Then I can develop the belief if I choose to. I can declare I believe in this particular religion. People change their minds all the time. I don't know if I believe that. Well, what do you believe? I don't know. But the point is that you will just simply figure out and decide and declare what you believe. Then you begin to go down the pathway of developing the belief. And as you develop the belief, you begin to realize it even more so if you believe it. But no one ever gives themselves the chance of the declaration. They're always in flux. They're always in confusion. They're always, sitting there in question marks. So they never make a solid declaration to what they want, what they desire, what they believe, and they never even get into the development stages. And people will tell me, well, what if I decided and I'm wrong? Well, shockingly, I don't know if you knew this or not, but you can change your mind. We all can. And I would just encourage you, especially in this business, you may say, I desire this much money. I declare this as my new belief. This is what I'm going to achieve. This is what I'm going to do. These are my goals. This is what I want to have. I'm going to now develop the pathway, whether it's the plan, the activity, the beliefs, the emotion. I'm going to develop it. And if you'll develop it, you'll figure out. And so some of your greatest strengths are this. I'm going to close with this. But it is the ability to be aligned. It is the greatest guiding force of your life. And it is the way in which you think and the way in which you feel. It is your greatest guide to your success in life. And people will try to tell you, oh, no, what you feel isn't what you really feel. No, what you think, don't you realize it is wrong? And maybe it is. But the reality is that whether it's the media, good friends, great parents, good friends, or great social media, whatever it is, great religions, everybody wants to tell you how to think and tell you how to feel. And I'm not even saying to you that that's wrong. What I'm telling you is you better check out to see if that's what you really think and that's what you really feel. Whether it's this business, whether it's this company, whether it's buyers, whether it's sellers, whether it's prospecting, and don't confuse your discomfort of skill set with still not realizing that what you think and what you believe, or what you believe, what you think, and what you feel, if it's aligned, don't confuse it with your concern of fear of not knowing what to say or how to do it, which most people do. You can reverse engineer that. Greg, you ever had something you've done and didn't feel good about it?
Daily.
Sure. It's another indicator for all of us, right? You ever had something that you've done and then you just thought, wait, that doesn't make sense? You ever had something you do where you realize, I don't really feel good about that? Marcus Aurelius was pretty smart in this arena. I'm just going to paraphrase. He kind of said, hey, if you wake up the next day and you didn't feel good about what you did the day before, hey, here's just a clue, Aaron, don't do that anymore. And when you were faced with the same thing to do, again, remind yourself how you felt the next day and don't do it. Religion will say, no, ask for forgiveness. Marcus said, just don't do it again. But either way, what you do, you can reverse engineer to what you feel and what you think. And so my point to you is that if you can get yourself aligned with what you think and what you feel and what you do, you will then be known as a person of what? Integrity. Which means, in my world, you integrate what you think, what you feel, and what you do, and they're all aligned. And when you live a life, when you're aligned, man, life is pretty awesome. It's when it's not aligned that life isn't pretty awesome. When you're doing something that you even think and believe and know to not be true, it is literally some of those painful moments of life. What is the one thing a slave can never say to its owner? No. And what is the one emotion that every slave has towards its master? Resentment. People live a lifetime of doing things they don't feel good about, think and believe, and therefore they are slaves, whether it's to drugs, alcohol, porn, all sorts of the bad stuff that would say, man, that's not the good stuff. And then we're slaves to other people because we sit there and we want to please every single other human being except ourselves. And the problem is then we're supposed to show up and sell a heck of a lot of real estate with this level of leadership and presence and power and strength and certainty. Then we show up completely confused. And then here's the deal. You're only going to pull it over on the people who are more confused than who? You. And they'll go, wow, seems like he's got his act together. Oh, just a little more than me because I'm totally screwed up too. Or you can show up with absolute alignment with what you believe, what you think, what you feel, and what you do. And you will walk through into a room or into a house or with a particular client, and you will be completely aligned. So just remember, as much as real estate is about selling real estate, I am convinced in my career that the single greatest thing that you can do is to become aligned. Because when you are, it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't even matter the script, it doesn't matter almost what you even do when you meet with a particular client. Because your presence will be so strong, because you will be so aligned that they will follow. And they always follow the person who is most aligned. They are drawn to it. All people are drawn to it. It is a magnet of attraction. So get aligned. Figure out what you believe. Ask yourself, what do I believe? What do I believe about prospecting? What do I believe about lead follow-up? What do I believe about this business? You may say, well, wait, I'm supposed to decide. Yeah, decide. So that you can walk into a room with absolute confidence and certainty, so that as you're moving your life in this business that can be very challenging, you can have a tremendous amount of peace in it because of who shows up. And I just want to, I'll close with just these two statements. I'm not going to write them up there, but just remember, this universe that we live in, this life, this earth that we live in, whether you are a person of faith or not, I would just challenge anyone to realize that if you ask that same question of do you live in a hostile world or a friendly world, and making the decision that whether you, and whatever you want to call it, is that this universe is prepared to give you everything you desire. But if I go back to the fact that I haven't quite figured out what I think and what I believe and the emotions weaved throughout that, it's unlikely that your life is the way you ultimately want it. It's not a judgment. Heavens, if my life was every angle of how I wanted it, you'd see me different. It'd just be different. You'd feel it. So the important part is don't give up, right? Don't settle. Don't say, well, it's just who I am. Get so far away from what you think you just are to more so what you want to be and who you want to become, and recognizing that every single thing that exists in this world, there was a vision, there was a creation process, there was a development process. But first it had to get clear on, or you had to get clear, or you got to get clear on, what is it that you desire? It's no different than if I'm with Bob playing some pool. Bob, do you hit the ball better if you believe you're going to make the shot versus you're not?
You have to know you're going to make the shot.
And will you make it every time?
Not every time, but
Right. But is life better, and do you play better? And especially if I would say great golfers have amnesia. I'm going to guess that great pool players have a little bit of amnesia.
Yeah.
You don't forget the last time you missed because you just simply believe this next time you're going to make it. That's part of the game of the universe, the game of sports, the game of life. That truly life is happening for you, not to you. And that maybe every disappointment, every struggle, every hard part, every moment that doesn't happen exactly the way you want it to, maybe it was unfolding exactly the way that it was supposed to. And instead of lamenting and blaming and victimizing, maybe better questions could be asked, such as, what was I supposed to learn today? If it's not today, what do I need to do? Who do I need to become? What needs to be different to have everything I desire? I'm convinced that the great battle, again, that you have is not out there. It's within yourself. There's a reason why there's only small percentages of people that seem to have extreme amounts of success. Why? Because they have tapped into their desires, their alignment, and their reasons as to why they do things. And when that vibration, frequency, energy, flow, or when I was playing basketball back in the day, Joe, did you play basketball?
Yeah.
I suspect you did. You're the guys I like to play against, and I have 2 double ACLs, and all the other stuff. And my point is that those moments when you're in the zone, did you like being in the zone?
Yeah.
Aubrey, did you like being in the zone?
I'm in the zone.
You're in the zone all the time? All the time? But there's the zone, right? The zone of a sport. You ever been in the zone when you're playing pool, Bob?
yes.
Those good times, aren't they? Everything's just flowing. So just remember that if you're not there, stay in the fire, right? The ring of fire, right? A little Johnny Cash. Can you stay in the fire, or will you run from it? Will you run from the intensity, run from the fire, run from the disappointment, run from the challenges, run from hard or difficult, challenging markets? Again, a better question, what was I supposed to learn from this? Not, oh my goodness, it just didn't happen again. Not the beat up, not the frustration, not the hammering down on yourself. Just again, what were you supposed to learn? And again, if life is happening for you, not to you, maybe there's something even more beautiful ahead. Sometimes the most important things are ahead of you. And the very things you think were to be the right things, recognizing in the words, just remember, the words of my wife, who will always say at the end of her Instagrams and almost every talk she gives, remember, you are enough, and remember, you are loved. And if you'll remember that, you start to realize that just maybe, if that is to be true, and even here's the thing, even if it wasn't, sure seems to be the right path to believe. That you're loved means you're known, means that everything is falling perfectly into place. So be hopeful. Be energized, be excited, and work on yourself, and recognize that if you will create the magnet of reception and frequency that this life requires, you'll have all the business, all the opportunities, all the things that you desire. And it may not happen exactly when you think it should, but isn't that a good thing? Because if it didn't happen how it's happening for you today, then it would be so easy. Then you wouldn't have to refine, then you wouldn't have to become more, then you wouldn't have to get better, you wouldn't have to do any of those things. That's the beauty of difficult markets, by the way, the requirement of you having to become more. All right,